welcome everyone. We're just seeing people continue to join, so we'll just give it another 60 seconds or so for people to join us, and then we'll get on with our presentation. Okay, I think most of the people that I can see have joined now, so without any further ado, let us begin. So welcome everyone to the latest in our series of webinars offered by Catalyst BI. And today's we're going to talk about not just the benefits of moving to cloud, but the actual operation of it as well and the technicalities of it. So I'm here today. My name's Noel Watson. I'm a pre-sales consultant at Catalyst BI, and I'm joined today by David Snelson. So David, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I am the sales director of Fusion, and we are a partner of Catalyst BI.
Yeah, thank you. So we've got about 30 minutes here. So we'll want to talk to you just to share a little bit about who we are for those that don't know us. But the majority of our time will be spent looking at how we can execute a migration from an on-premise Qlik instance into cloud so that we can start to leverage the benefits of that. We'll dig down into the detail of how it works and what benefit it offers. But I'm also really excited to be able to introduce Fusion for Qlik as well. So obviously, once you're into cloud, there's lots of benefits already around the technology that the platform offers. But if you can share that and make that data available to other users in a really accessible way, then there's value definitely within that capability. And we've got some time at the end set aside for a bit of Q&A. Hopefully you'll have some thoughts that you want to share with us or want to know a bit more. So who are Catalyst? We've been around a little over 10 years, but actually through acquisition, we've got members of the team that have got more like 20 years experience. So we've been in the BI space for quite a long time now. We've got around 65 staff spread across the UK, and we've got 3 divisions to our Catalyst team. So I work in the BI team where we do all things data, but we also have an ERP arm offering NetSuite services and Catalyst Cloud who offer software solutions. And we've been recognised in the industries that we serve for our excellent service. We've got a strapline that we refer back to in Catalyst BI. So we know that the magic happens when you put relevant data into the hands of decision makers and make it possible for them to make better informed decisions. But we like to see our role in this not just to deliver that solution, but also to challenge and ask the difficult questions of organisations. Why are you doing it this way? Is there a different way or a different outcome that we could strive towards? And because we always did it that way is not a valid answer. In the BI team, I mentioned that we do all things data. So actually we have members of our team offering data management skills, so data integration, data movement and transformation. We've been around the data analytics space for a long time now, offering services in Qlik and Power BI, but happy to talk to you about any tooling. And we also offer data science. So we've got webinars lined up on some of those areas, and we've done some historically, so you can go back and check those out on YouTube. If you just search Catalyst BI, you'll be able to find those, or just connect with us directly, and we'd be happy to have a conversation with you about any of those topics. So on to our subject for today. Why would we move to Qlik Cloud? So the QR code there, we did a webinar about a year ago where we dug quite deep into some of the capabilities in Qlik Cloud and why it's superior to the on-prem offering. So you can link direct to that from that QR code. In the meantime, I'll just give you a quick synopsis of that. So fundamentally, scaling and flexibility. So you're not tied to your own infrastructure size. You can grow and shrink according to the number of users logged on. So it's completely dynamic and scalable. You won't get any slowdowns in performance. And it's always the size that you need it to be. So you can hammer it hard at month end and not worry that you're impacting other capabilities. It's always the latest and greatest capabilities in there. So any new developments that come out from Qlik are delivered first in cloud. You massively reduce the maintenance, so those infrastructure engineers will not need to be patching and upgrading software. It's all managed by Qlik, and therefore you get the savings of not having to maintain those servers, but even have those servers. So you're going to massively reduce the on-premise footprint of your Qlik capability. You might still need a data gateway to securely access to your local data sources, but much reduced compared to the big horsepower engines required by Qlik on-premise. It does more, much more. So Qlik Sense Analytics is just really the core of that platform. It also does machine learning, Gen AI, business process automation, through the automate capability. So the list goes on. Natural language, Teams integration, you mentioned it. And it allows you, because it's in the cloud, obviously, to allow external users to come and collaborate with that data. So whether it's field-based members of your own teams, or whether you want to share that data out to interested parties, customers, vendors, whatever it might be, then having that data in the cloud makes that much easier to achieve. So it's clear what the value is. So what's really stopping people from moving into cloud? So historically, some of the things I've heard fed back to us when we have these conversations is just volume. There's such a large volume of legacy applications that they've built up over years of using Qlik that it just seems an insurmountable obstacle to be able to get that list of development across into cloud. We also hear about technical bandwidth, so it's frequently the same team that delivering support for existing deployments. They're developing new content, training and enabling your user base, but also scoping out new development as well. So it's that same team that are doing all that work on your existing environment that are then going to be responsible for migrating to cloud. And it just seems like the straw that could break the camel's back. So actually, I'd like to talk and demonstrate how that might not necessarily be the case, that it has to be that team doing this. And just the complexity as well. So historically, QlikView is quite an aged product now. It's over 30 years old, I think. But it got very good in its day, and people built very rich, very dense applications that contain lots of data. And there's a perception that it was not possible to recreate some of those layouts or to get it looking as good in Qlik Sense. But also, times have moved on in Sense as well, and that's no longer the case, and we'd be happy to demonstrate that to you. So what I want to show in terms of the Qlik Migration Toolkit is how it is a tool that allows you to effectively plan, so you can lay it all out in the tool before you've even touched the cloud tenant. So you can see exactly how it's going to look, plan what your deployment in Qlik Cloud will look like, and make tweaks to it, change it, resequence, and do all the rest of it. So effectively, you can have it all whiteboarded out before you ever push anything into cloud, and get a feel for whether you're in the right space. You can share that list of activities out, so it's got that capability to do projects and jobs that different people can own. Because it is through a single tool, what I'm going to show you today, I won't put any hands on either Qlik Sense Enterprise or Qlik Cloud. It's all through one tool. And if you understand the security model that you want to achieve, then actually somebody with no experience of either of those tools could feasibly go and do this task. So that's what I mentioned about basically extending the possibility of doing this out beyond your technical team. And what I love most about this is once you've done the migration, you've clicked the button and say, right, let's push these assets into cloud. If you then look at that and decide it's gone wrong, not quite what I wanted to achieve there, then there's a rollback facility, and you can just undo it and restart after redesigning what you're trying to achieve. So what I'm going to show then is Qlik Analytics migration tool. So we want to move some Qlik Sense applications into cloud, check that that's worked okay, and then potentially put an NPrinting report inside the application as well, and create a schedule for that. Let me just pull in our Qlik Cloud migration tool. So it's web-based, which is the first thing you can see here. So it's installed, it's an application that you install on a Windows server. So you typically put this quite close to your Qlik Sense, QlikView NPrinting servers. But yeah, so you install it onto Qlik Sense and then you hook it up to your Qlik tools. So if I just flip across to connections here, you'll see that I've already connected it up to our Qlik Cloud. So you just need to create an API key in there. You can hook it up to your Qlik Sense client managed QlikView as well. So that's just through shared folders basically. Qlik Sense converter. So it's quite clever in that if you've got QlikView applications that you want to push into cloud, you can pull them out of QlikView, run them through your Qlik Sense environment to do the conversion from a QVW to a QVF and to build that master asset library. And then to push that directly into cloud. And we also connect into NPrinting as well, so we can pull those reports and connect them up to applications. So there are a number of logical groupings that you build within the application. And the first one is a plan, which is basically a set of all the assets that I want to work with. So if I just very quickly create a plan, we can then go and change this and decide what do we want to actually do in this. So you can have multiple plans on the go at the same time, which is what I was talking about there with that capability to divvy up work and give different work packets out to different groups of people. But basically, having created those connections, I can now hook into a Qlik Sense server. And I'll just keep it simple here just to very quickly demonstrate. So we've said that we're going to take some Qlik Sense applications and push them into Qlik Cloud. I've got capabilities as well. So if the domains of the email users, if your users have changed, so if you've gone from what used to be a Microsoft Active Directory to an Azure AD, you can map those users along the way, similarly with spaces. But then we go and grab the objects, basically. So we can retrieve all objects. Some instances of Qlik Sense Enterprise, that would take a little while because there's a lot of stuff in there. But just as an example, if we go and grab some users, I can decide which users, and you can see it's going off and querying our Qlik Sense Enterprise. And if I just look for my own name in there, you can see it filtered down. I've got a few different accounts in there, but I'll just pull this one across. And we want to do users first because as we push other assets across into Qlik Cloud, and if we want to re-specify who is the owner of those assets, we need Qlik Cloud migration tool to know about those user accounts. And you'll see it over here underneath this table mode, there's a flip switch here. And this is the real magic of this tool, basically, is that on the client managed, we get to see what the value is in our instance of client managed, and then we can flip over to see what do we want it to be once we've flipped across. So actually now I'm a tenant. I've got a professional license. Maybe we're moving across to a capacity tenant, so it should be a full user, or maybe I'm downgrading to an analyzer. So we can start to build out exactly what that future design will look like. Can also assign different roles as well as they apply to Qlik Cloud, either in the user case. So if it's somebody who's going to be doing AutoML, or we can even define their admin roles as well within that. And you can see these different menus here allow us to pick assets from different types and be able to then do some of that configuration along each of those assets that we bring in to build out that picture of what that will look like in the future. So just blue piece of styly, I've just prepared one a little bit richer in information earlier just to show some of the things that we can actually do here. And we can see it's the similar sort of plan, but I've just moved it on a little bit further. So within the object selection, I've got a few users here. So John Doe didn't exist. Maybe he's a QlikView user and we want him to go across into cloud. He didn't exist, so I can actually create users in here. We can create spaces that don't exist. So it doesn't have to be a one-to-one mapping. And we don't have to kind of go outside of the tool if we're making up new information. So I created John Doe, and I've basically said that it's going to be a professional user doing AutoML deployment and contribution. But we can also see as well within the shared spaces what the assignments would be. So we can start to do things like see, I've got an Athena shared space here that I'm creating that we haven't actually assigned any users to yet. So I can see what the current one is. I'm the owner of the space, we can see here. So I've got those capabilities, but I can go in here and start to add in not just using assignments, but start to be able to give users access to this. So maybe everybody should be able to view, but actually we only want the developers to be able to do the consumption of data. Only the admin can manage. So you see what I mean here about being able to define exactly who's going to be using that space, who the owner will be, what everybody's capability will be in there. All from this whiteboard environment before I've put any hands or made any changes into Qlik Cloud. So once I've defined all that, come across and create a project. Choose what plan we want to use. So we can create multiple projects that reference different plans. So different people can be working on finance, operations, whatever it might be, for example. I've got a capability to build a standard job list. I can build my own job list as well if I just want to ad hoc it, but I've got a recommended set of activities. So I'll create a Qlik Sense migration project. And that creates a list of predefined jobs for me to do. So it's always useful to do the users first, so that then as we put other assets into Qlik Cloud and we want to create the spaces as an example, and be able to put the users onto the spaces, we've already told it who the users are, etc. But we can see here a list of all the activities that it's going to do. If we need to change them, if we decide it's at any point this is incorrect, we go back to the plan, because the plan is covering not just a single job, a single application, it's covering potentially a number of different projects. So that's the right place to make those changes. But we can see exactly the activity that we're going to execute here. And if we click across to the migration steps, we can see, so it's a user movement job. So we want to be in the users section here. And we're going to pull the users out of the source system, whatever that might be, and import them into Qlik Cloud. So we can see from the object selection what they are. And we can see from the migration steps what the actions are that we're going to conduct. And then we can go and execute. And as I mentioned before, never need to move outside of Qlik Cloud here. So all this is running. If I look at this now, it's completed with warnings. So we can show the log on that. Well, the warning it's given is actually I already existed. There's a few of these users that already existed with roles, so it's not going to write over the top of those, but it will create new ones in there and give them the appropriate roles as we defined in our user base there. So at that stage, it just becomes a case of going down our list. So we can create spaces and assign members. We can migrate applications. We can resequence these as well. So actually, before migrating my applications, I might want to move my data connections over there. So I can resequence those. There's some that it wouldn't make sense to do that, and actually it will try and give you warnings if you try and move applications before you've created spaces, for example. But it is helping you massively along the way. I'm not going to go through all of these steps just because I'm conscious of time, but you can take it through to the state where we're actually test reloading applications. So it's simple enough job when it's just one application, but if you just migrated 10, 20 applications, you don't want to have to go and test reload each of those. You can just schedule those through this interface, get them all to test reload and feedback any errors found. Validate applications. This is really, really clever stuff. So it will compare your on-premise application object by object and measure by measure to check that the data in a reloaded cloud application has got the same data in it as an on-premise one. And then you can undo migration as well. So you can undo migration either directly within the task. So if I wanted to undo the two users that I've created, I can go back to, actually no, bad example that. So users is the only one that you can't undo. It won't let you delete users from here, but it will let you roll back any app migrations. So if we go into the migrate applications task list here and look at the migration steps, you'll see that the default applications would be to pull them out of the source system and push them into the cloud, and then to update the app owners. But if I wanted, I could say, no, that didn't go well, so let's delete applications, and go back and run that again. And that basically will allow us to undo all of that configuration that we've created, going back to the drawing board and start again. Okay, so if you want to clear down the list of jobs, we can actually just clear the project, and that will remove the list of jobs for us. But you can see here we've got this the selection list here. So if I were to create a list from my other projects which I've got running, I can then have multiple job lists that I can filter through this and basically divvy up who is doing the work, and be able to have multiple teams working on this at the same time, all from one centrally managed set of plans where we're leveraging configuration in our existing Qlik Sense environment or QlikView, and be able to push that through into cloud. I know that was a very brief whistle-stop tour, but hopefully that's given you a bit of a flavour that we can create a plan where we pull together all the assets, be those users, spaces, streams as they are in Sense Enterprise, applications, etc. Create projects. It does migrate extensions across automatically if they're associated with an application as well. And it allows us to kind of whiteboard and check that we're happy with what we're going to do before we do it. But then if for whatever reason we're not happy with the outcome, we can then roll back. So NPrinting is supported as well. NPrinting, the latest release of NPrinting, which is IR3 of February 2025, does support all of the currently supported Qlik Cloud report formats, so Pixel Perfect, HTML, and Excel. But you will need to be on a relatively modern one to be able to leverage all of those. Once you're in cloud, then, so assuming you've made a successful migration, you've got access to all those additional benefits that we previously talked about. So machine learning, Gen AI, distributed reporting, alerting, whatever. But also you've got that ability to share data. And one of the best ways that you can do that is through a tool that embeds Qlik and makes it look beautiful, which is Fusion for Qlik. So David, can you just tell us a little bit about what Fusion for Qlik is?
Sure, no, I'd be delighted to. So hello, everyone. I'm going to start with a question, which is, what if Qlik was as easy to use as it is powerful? And we know it's very powerful. So I think the first thing to talk about is, what is Fusion? And Fusion is essentially a portal. And it's a simplified interface that sits in front of Qlik Cloud Analytics. And it does two very cool things that supercharge operational analytics as a result. So the first thing is, as Noel has just alluded, it allows you to drive adoption of Qlik by giving a simplified interface that means that thousands of people can use it that don't need to be data experts. And the second thing it can do is present slices of that data externally to partners. And when we talk about partners, I think a great example would be a customer portal or a supplier portal, sharing mission critical information that allows them to trade with you better. And it does all of this very quickly. You don't have to build out a custom complex web mashup. In fact, if you've got the Qlik apps ready to rock and roll, then this can be done in days rather than weeks. So what value does that deliver to the people that are purchasing Fusion? Well, the first thing is, it means you are driving better results. You've got more people making better decisions using data, and that means naturally you're going to get a more performant organization. But you definitely, if you're sharing that information with those trading partners, get a more frictionless relationship with them, and they are basically making better decisions based on information that you have that pertains to them. So I'm going to give you an example of how we can do this. But before I actually get into the example, I do want to absolutely say that here at Fusion, we love Qlik. Qlik is the engine that sits underneath our solution, and it's an awesome, amazing, powerful platform. Brilliant if you understand Qlik. So if it's the engine, then I think the best way to think of Fusion is like we're a funky spoiler that sits on the back, or a little piece of bodywork that could just make it go that little bit better. So let's talk about an example, and I'll continue the motoring analogy. So we've got the raw Formula One data from this season and last. And if you are into Formula One, this is of huge interest to you, because obviously Formula One is all about numbers. Now, if we were to ingest that information into Qlik, then what kind of value would the fans derive immediately as they looked at that? So that we can take a look at that. Thank you. Next one, please. Yeah, so here we are. This is what it would look like if we took the apps that we built around that Formula One data and ingested them into Qlik. Now, if you understand Qlik Sense Cloud, then this is what you see. And it's absolutely brilliant for people like Noel. If Noel loves Formula One, he is going to be in heaven here by just clicking around these apps and getting immediate value and understanding what Lewis Hamilton did last Saturday. But if you're me and you do not understand how to use Qlik Analytics, then I'm confronted with a naming convention that I don't really understand. I'm not familiar with an insight advisor or stories or assets or apps. I'm not daft, so I will be able to go on a learning journey and understand this, but it's going to take me some time. So let's move forward away from Qlik and ask the same question. If we present that data in Fusion, then how many of the 825 million Formula One fans around the world would get value out of it straight out of the box? Well, let's take a look. This beautiful user interface, this portal, is exactly the same apps. It's exactly the same data that we were just looking at in Qlik. But I'm immediately drawn to the navigation on the left-hand side, which looks like any website I've ever looked at or an app. And I can see as well, I've got favorites and I've got recents. And not only that, I'm looking at language, which allows me to immediately become familiar with what I'm seeing. So pit stops and races and drivers and tracks and laps and podiums. I'm a Formula One nerd. I completely get all that. So straight away, I'm going to be clicking on that navigation down the left-hand side, and I'm going to be driving immediate value. And it's because the interface is familiar, it's because I understand what I'm looking at, and I'm going to get a lot of value from a Fusion portal there. Thanks, Noel. So if we take that Formula One example and we apply it to a practical business case, this is one that we've done for a hospital in the UK. They had exactly the same kind of challenge. They got lots and lots of people who would benefit from having data at their fingertips, but because of the learning curve of Qlik, there was limited adoption. So we overlaid Fusion, built this portal, and this is used to run the theatres. And the audience for it are nurses. It's a simple portal, 53 Qlik apps, all mashed up together to give role-specific access. And this resulted in really high adoption, a massive uplift, and a logical efficiency gain as a result of that uplift. But when we look at that screen, we've got nurses, of course, that are looking at this app, this solution, and they can understand, you know, theatres, the executive report, bed management, wards, referrals, and that really is what Fusion does. And I'm sure you can apply that to any kind of business problem that you may have in your organization, because if you take those Formula One apps and you substitute your apps with those, and then you take that audience of Formula One people around the world and substitute it with your teams, then pretty quickly you've got your sales guy, your medics, your accountants. They're all looking at something that is instantly consumable and delivering a lot of value, because the business case is identical. And you may have even thought of something already where you could share, you know, your finance information with your suppliers, or HR would like to look at something, you know, that's specific to their team. And that's really the message that I wanted to bring today, Gordon. Noel, thank you. And to answer the question, what if Qlik was as easy to use as it is powerful? If you combine Qlik and Fusion, then it can be, because what it does is fuse that power that Qlik has with simplicity, enabling everybody to get data insights and turn them into value. So I hope you found that interesting. And if you are interested in finding out a bit more about Fusion, or you'd like a login to that Formula One portal to play around with that kind of data, then please just contact Catalyst and they can help you out with that. Back to you, Noel.
Wow. Thank you, David. Wow. That was really impressive stuff. Yeah, I mean, I am a Qlik lover as well, but But even I can see that that really does lower the barrier to entry, doesn't it, in terms of just being able to make it intuitive to use in a way that perhaps as it got better and more capable over the years, it just lost a little bit of that intuitiveness around how it operates. So I'd like to thank everyone for their time. Hopefully you found some of that interesting, but the conversation doesn't have to stop there. If you want to talk to us about anything that you've seen today, then you've got my contact details on the screen there. Just reach out to us either via LinkedIn or you can contact me by my email if you have that. And we'd be happy to talk to you about any of this. So we'll just have a few minutes of questions. Try not to keep you too long. So how long would we need to start looking at a move to cloud? Again, how long is a piece of string? I can't really tell you that without knowing a bit more about your environment, but I do genuinely believe that the tool I've shown you today is an accelerator in the kind of 5 to 10x space. So if we were looking at 100 apps, and actually we recently did a handballing style migration for one customer of I think 60, 70 apps, and it did take a little while. I think with this tool, you'd be able to prototype and simulate that and potentially, reduce it by an order of magnitude. But it's not just about the time saving as well. It's about the control that it gives you and the visibility of what the project looks like, where you are in the life cycle of it. So I think as well as it just being quicker, the governance around it just makes it so much de-risked as well. So I think that's one that's worth bearing in mind. So a question for you, David. How long does Fusion take to implement?
Well, that's a bit of a piece of string one as well, actually, because it depends on the readiness of the Qlik apps to be able to be put into Fusion. But if you are ready and you've got the information that you're ready to share and it's in good order, then the Fusion component is, days, hours, absolutely a very fast thing to roll out. The only thing we've got to get is kind of brand guidelines and those kind of things. But yeah, a really speedy process.
Yeah, so I've actually built a few pages in Fusion, and it's a drag and drop interface. So you don't need any coding skills to be able to do any of that. You just build and reference your Qlik apps, drag them in, position them where you want to be, and just put a bit of styling over the top, and it really does look amazing. Question: What email do we contact to access the F1 Fusion demo? Well, send it through to me, or sales at Catalyst. bi.co.uk, I think. But my contact details on the screen there, and I'll sort that out for you. Yeah, I'm happy to have a conversation. So I've got a question about license cost and structure. Is it separate from existing QlikView and Sense licenses? Well, it can be. You can have it as a standalone product, but actually most customers are choosing to convert their existing estate into Qlik Cloud, which means that you generally don't pay as much. Qlik like to recognize your previous investment into Qlik software and be able to get you into cloud for a modest uplift rather than asking you to fork out again. So we'd have to look at your individual circumstances, but definitely give us a shout if you would like to have a conversation about that. And then finally, last question. It's just saying, I'm guessing the F1 data quality is pretty good. Does this work as well in the healthcare where the data quality isn't as good? I think that's probably a question I can address more than David, knowing a bit more about about the NHS. So I think Qlik is about the best tool that there is for data quality management anyway. With or without Fusion, the fact that you can build a table allowing you to filter on any value and show where you've got gaps and be able to do all kinds of very quick analysis within minutes of loading that data means that you've created a tool where you can expose and surface data quality issues immediately. By being able to embed that into Fusion and then passing that back to the business to say, here's your list of DQ issues in an easy to consume interface, I think it is adding a valuable part to that capability as well. Because it's not an IT problem, it's a business problem. So passing that problem back to the business to address with the right toolkit, I think is the way to address that. But a very good question. Okay, just conscious we've run a few minutes over, so I thank you for your patience, those that have stayed with us, and hopefully found that interesting. So my details there on the screen if you'd like to have a further conversation. And apart from that, I shall thank you for your time and wish you a good rest of your day.
Thanks very much.